Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson, and I'm having a hard time getting a good signal, so I'm hoping that this is working, and I'm thinking that it isn't, so I'm going to keep trying. Oh, maybe it is. If you can see me, just do me a favor and send a heart across the screen. You know, I've learned that this isn't about the signal in my home, because I've got a great signal. It's more about Facebook and updating the application, which I've done. So hopefully this will work. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, yeah, it's working. Now let's cross our fingers. Let's all visualize it staying connected, shall we? Thank you, Donna. Thanks, Ro. Hi, Sibele. Sibele, hi. Thank you. So I was coming on a few minutes early just to welcome everybody. Hi, Kate. And to get set up and make sure that this is working. This is the weekly coaching session, so I'll be spending some time with you just answering questions, offering some coaching and resources and support. Anything you might need related to relationships, your own self-care, career, business, you name it, we're here to serve. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Cheryl Richardson, and I'm a coach, and I've been working with people for about, 25 years now. And while I no longer coach privately, I do so in the events that I do it here, the workshops that I host. A lot of times people will say, how can I work with you privately? And I say, well, you can't, but you can come to one of the events, and we can do a little bit of coaching. If you come to the retreats that I hold, we do a lot more intensive coaching because the groups are smaller and we have a lot more time to spend together. So you can always get resources at my website at CherylRichardson.com, and you can see the events that I host there on the schedule page. And every week I write a newsletter that shares a story about something that's happened in my life or in the life of someone I'm dealing with, or just where I write about some of my own thoughts about self-care and living a good life based on what the soul needs, not what the head needs, but what the soul needs. So I hope that we've got archives of many years of material, and you can search for different topics depending on what you need support about. So I invite you to go there and you can look at the newsletter section. If you're not subscribed, you can just look right up at the sign up button, and you can sign up for the newsletter right there. That's why I always announce things first. That's my sort of online family who's been with me for many, many years. So if I'm doing an event or I'm hosting this Facebook Live, that's where I post information about that. So in the meantime, I want you to be thinking about a question that you have, something you'd like support with, because you'll be able to just put it in the comments below. I keep looking this way because I also have my computer with me, my laptop, just in case, just in case the comments, sometimes the comments are tough to read. So I get to just read them right here on my laptop while I'm with you. So yeah, I just got back from Vegas, where I was at the first Hay House Live event, where I hosted a day-long workshop called the Extreme Self-Care Boot Camp. Vegas is an interesting place. It's really busy and exciting. There's a lot of energy, a lot of people, a lot of bells and whistles and lights and bigness, big energy, lots of stuff going on. Michael came with me, my husband Michael, and we went to see the Cirque du Soleil show, the Beatles show called Love. That was awesome, just awesome. And you know, to me, it's one of the best things about being in Vegas is being able to see some of the shows that you just will never see anywhere else in the world. And in Vegas, the Cirque du Soleil shows, the theaters are made specifically for the shows. So you have this kind of whole body experience, full-on sensory experience that is like no other that I've seen. So the Beatles, it's based on the Beatles music, and the show was just so much fun. Within 5 minutes of being there, all of the colors and the music and the lights and lasers and people spinning from the ceilings. I mean, it was, you know, I could feel the little kid in me just going, yay, I'm so glad we're here. And I was with Michael and Robert Holden and some other friends, and boy, we just had a ball. That was great. And then for some of you who have been with me a while, you know that my husband Michael is a really gifted intuitive, a skill that he's had all his life, but it really came to the forefront after a long period of depression. And he uses his intuition mostly to help people who are suffering. He doesn't do it for a living, he doesn't charge for it, but he every now and then will do a reading for somebody, or he'll do a group event for a local charity to help them raise money. And so I said to him, honey, let's go into the casino and see if you can like tune in. And I don't gamble. It makes me too anxious. Like I actually want to go into the casino and just say, here, take my money, take my money, because I feel too anxious being here. But I said to him, let's go to the roulette wheel, see if you can pick a number, use your intuition to pick a number, and we'll see if we win. And I went, and I put like some money down, a little bit of money down, like $5 on some different numbers, and nothing happened. It was very noisy, and Michael just said to me, you know what, why don't you just put $5 on number 32? So I did. I put a little $5 chip on number 32, and it hit. And our $5 bet turned into $175, and I said to him, we're done. We went to a blackjack table, and I placed a bet, and I won. I placed a bet, and I lost, and I said to him, you know what, I'm done. We're ahead of the game. This is awesome. And he said to me, this is not the place to tune into your intuition. There's just way too much going on. So we took our winnings, and we left and went out to dinner. So that was kind of fun. It was this fun little moment, and it was great to meet a lot of people at the workshop. Did some tapping at this workshop, a couple of tapping sessions that were really great. I did this one tapping session with a woman who, her name was Connie, sweet, sweet woman who had been in a serious, serious car accident. And we were tapping on the fact that she was saying that she wanted to let go of the story around this accident. And I was supporting her in embracing the story instead of trying to get rid of it. Because we've learned in tapping that it's what you try to get rid of that stays in the system in a powerful way. So we did some tapping together, and what we discovered during the tapping, which was quite amazing, was that the situation, the accident she had been in, was actually, and her desire to get rid of the story was actually related to another accident she had been in at 3 years old when she was launched out of a vehicle. And so we tapped on that source event as well. And by the end of it, she looked like a completely different person. And what was interesting that I didn't tell the audience was that I had been in a car accident 2 years prior where I was hit from behind, just like Connie was. And of course that came to me when I was doing the tapping work with her. And as we spent some time going through rounds and rounds doing the tapping, I felt better. There had always been some residual trauma left about the accident I had been in. I had been hit full force by a man on a motorcycle with a big windshield on his motorcycle. I thought he had died. He didn't, thank God. But I was at a full stop, and he was going full speed ahead and just didn't see me stop. He was looking off to the side. So there was a piece of trauma in my body still left around that. And today I was tuning into that experience and realized coaching with Connie really helped to release some of the trauma in my field from that accident. That's the beauty of the tapping. It can not only help us and the people that we're tapping, I mean, it can not only help the people we're tapping with, but it can also help us as well. So that was a pretty powerful experience for the both of us. So anyway, Vegas was good. I'm glad to be home. It's a gorgeous day here today. Spring has sprung in full bloom, and it's like 75 degrees, or it's going to be 75 degrees. I think it's about 70 degrees, and it's just beautiful. So let's get to some coaching, shall we? Let me see if I'm hoping that your comments are going to work. It looks like they are. So feel free to go to the comments section, and you can just type in something that you'd like to hear me talk about, or something that you need help with, something that you need support with, a question you might have, or a resource that you're looking for, whatever it might be. You can let me know, and then I'll do my best to support you in any way I can. And I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, do me a favor, somebody just send me a comment so I can make sure that these comments are working. Facebook is tricky every now and then. You know, it looks like it is, and then it suddenly stops. But I know that you all are here. At least I think you all are here. I hope this is working. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, now, yeah, see, it's working on my computer. It's not working on my phone. Okay, great. Got it. Thank you very much. Now it's happening. So I'm going to just turn every now and then to look at my computer so that I can read your questions. Can you talk about, let's see. Can you talk about giving to others when you're not fully supported yourself? Well, you know, it's a good question, and it's an important one. Let's see, you know what? Hold on one second. How do we give to others when we are unable to give to ourselves? Okay. Stay with me, people. Yeah. Tanessa. Okay, Tanessa. Great. I think I've got it here now. It's definitely working there. It's just not working on the phone. So, Tanessa, you know, the clue to that answer is in the question, right? We need to look at how we can be fully supported. And I found in my own life that the first step is believing that you can be supported, that you deserve support, that you have what it takes to find it and receive it. A lot of people, women in particular, Tanessa, seem to struggle with, especially if they're really strong-minded and self-reliant, sometimes even anti-dependent, they struggle with the belief that they can actually find the support they need, let alone receive it. And so that's really the first thing to work on. I welcome and support from the universe. I'm a magnet for great support. Like, these are some of the things that you can affirm. I'm not saying that affirmations alone are going to like suddenly make somebody, you know, suddenly appear in your life. Although I'll tell you something, I've watched that happen. But you first want to really, you want to affirm that you're worthy of support, that you're ready to receive support. And so that said, sometimes that support comes in the form of friendships that are give and take primarily. Not all the time, because sometimes we need more as a friend than another. But you want to be conscious of building give and take friendships. So that support can come in the form of friendships. It can come in the form of a woman's group or a men's group or a group. It can come in the form of a therapist or a coach. It can come in the form of a church community, a Facebook community. I know we have the Life Makeover Group Facebook private community that is open to people who are taking the Art of Extreme Self-Care online course for the year, but also people who just want to support each other and taking better care of themselves. So that's a kind of a virtual online support. Getting some of those kinds of support in place is really important, because you're going to need that in order to be there for others in some kind of a significant way. Now, I also know that there are times in life, many times in life, where we do have to support others even when we feel like we're at the end of our rope. Certainly when my husband Michael was going through a deep depression, that was the case for me. And I took too long, Tanessa, to get support. I struggled for about a year because I was just so thrown by what was going on. I didn't know how to handle it. And when I finally did get support from friends, when I opened my mouth and let people know that I was struggling, that I was trying to support Michael, I was trying to, there was a lot going on with work. We were in the middle of building a house. It was just really hard. And, but prior to that, I had a lot of stuff going on inside, and I didn't know how to ask for support. Sometimes we're dealing with an aging family or a sick child, or an aging family member, a sick child, or somebody in our life that needs our support. Some of the best advice I can give you is to look at your plate and do the best you can to take as much off your plate as you can, so that you make a choice to support whomever you're supporting as consciously and presently as you can, while you're trying to gather support yourself. Look for the things that just can't get your attention right now and let them go. Tell friends and family, I love you. I wish I could be there for you, but I've got too much on my plate. I find that people can be pretty understanding when we do something like that. And if they're not, if they get angry, they have a right to their feelings. But if they stay that way, then you've got more to look at in terms of the relationship. So I hope that's helpful, Tanessa, and I hope that you'll continue to tune in here, so that you know that you are supported and loved. That's the other thing I want to say to all of you. There is this greater love present in the world, a greater love that we can't see. Some might call it God, some might call it Jesus, Buddha, the universe, the Creator, whatever you call it. There is a greater love here to support you. And it's hard to remember that when we're just busy running through life and we don't stop to to close our eyes, to take a deep breath, to tune in, to be more present to our lives, to be more present to ourselves. I did that this morning. I was sitting out on the deck in the sunshine. I just closed my eyes and imagined pulling my energy inward. And then, thanks to Joe Dispenza, I went to his workshop this weekend in Vegas. I just imagined all this space around me as if I were in outer space, and all these twinkling stars, and I just put myself in the center of this greater love. And I spent 10 minutes doing that, and it felt wonderful. And it returned me to a place of remembering that we are all divinely supported, whether we believe it or not, by the way. Isn't that great? I love that. And Tanessa, know that I'm here sending you love, and I'm asking everybody here to send you love. Let's do that. It's always a great thing to do, to just imagine beaming her a beautiful golden beam of light and love to her. And I hope you feel it. I hope you do. All right, let me see. What else do we have here for questions? Let's see. Wendy wants to know, when are you coming back to London? I am going to come back to London, and I'm trying to work that out. I love London. I miss it. I've been wanting to go there for quite some time now. And I was almost going to come in October, but once I looked at my schedule, I realized I wasn't going to be able to accept the invitation that was extended to me, unfortunately, because I really, really want to go. But I will. I look forward to being there, Wendy. And of course, if you are on my newsletter list, you will be the first to know when I'm coming to London, because that's where I announce all of that sort of stuff. So, all right, let me look at some other questions here. Okay. Oh, good, James. I'm so glad you got your answer. And thank you for sending her love. That's really wonderful. I love that you did that. Okay. Starting to write a book, do you have any tips for motivation and to write with your inner self-critic? Yeah. I had a coach once say to me, the inner critic, whenever we begin a creative process, always gives us an invitation to write from a more vulnerable, heartfelt place. So, because you're starting to write a book, you're going to enter this process of learning about your own creative journey and what you need in order to stay true to that journey. So I would schedule regular times to write, even if it was just for 15 minutes, and notice how that schedule works for you so that you can learn whether or not writing in the morning versus at night or in the afternoon works best for you. You can find your best time. I would recommend that you find a special space that feels right to you, or with a laptop, there might be several different places. Some people write really well in a cafe. I can't. I need quiet. I need lots of silence, Jessica, in order to be able to do my writing. I write best in the morning, but you know what? When I was writing Take Time for Your Life, my first book, I wrote a lot of that book in the middle of the night. It just was what my creative self was called to do. This next book that's coming out at the end of the year, it's called Waking Up in Winter. I've been writing a lot of that in the morning. I woke up early this morning. I'm doing the final approval of copy edits, and this Friday is my final deadline. So I find that early in the morning works for me. And even this morning, Jessica, while I was writing, I was sitting on the deck just going over some of the copy edits, and and you know, this is a journal, so it's a very personal book, which has invited a kind of critic that I've not experienced before as a writer, and this is my 7th book. And I was sitting on the deck, and you know, the voices were coming in. Oh, I can't believe you're going to tell people that, or what are people going to think about this, or what is so-and-so going to say about this? And I just had to just keep breathing, and every now and then I would just put my hand on my heart and I would say, sweetheart, honor the artist within. I honor you. I know you're scared. These are younger parts of me that are scared, but I'm not going to give them power over the adult artist who knows this is what I'm meant to do. And it's an ongoing process, Jessica. So anytime we take on any creative project where we get hit with the voice of the inner critic, just allow the vulnerability you feel to connect you more deeply to your heart and to what's true for you, and make sure that's what lands on the page. And it's going to be messy at first. You'll go back and edit it later on, but just give yourself the gift of time in a beautiful nest to write, and the loving presence of your adult self who will take care of you as the inner critics pop up. They're just scared children, that's all. Love them. That's what they need. All right, yes, we are not alone, Teresa says, that's for sure. Let's see. Let's see here. Well, some people who are asking about writing should definitely have just received their answer. Okay, what happens when, Alexandra says, what happens when one person changes in a marriage and the other seems unwilling to grow with them, seems threatened by the changes in growth? I get this question a lot, Alexandra, and so what do we do when we're in a relationship with somebody? This could be a romantic relationship, it could be a friendship, it could even be a collegial relationship where you've supported each other and been together for a long time, and one of you starts to become more self-aware, to invest more in your own personal growth, to want to take more adventures in life, to want to honor the soul's voice in life. You know, what do you do when that happens and people are threatened by that, or people are angry about it, or are intimidated, or are just kind of rude about you doing that and wanting you to change, especially in a marriage, let's say, or in a partnership, a romantic partnership, or a very close partnership? The first thing I like to say about that is, let's just imagine that the other person's nervous. And especially, Alexandra, I find this with a lot of the men that I work with, and the men and women that I've worked with, where as women, we were raised to be more relational. We were raised to talk to one another about our feelings and about our own desire for growth and evolution. Men were traditionally raised to be the breadwinner, go out, don't feel, get to work and do your job kind of thing. I know I'm generalizing, but that's what I'm doing. So all of a sudden, a woman starts to own her power, become more self-aware, start to invest in this work, and the man in her life gets threatened. But that threatened, it's not like he has the skills to sit down and say, hey, Alexandra, I'm really kind of uncomfortable about this, the way that you're growing and changing and making different demands or making different requests, and I don't know what to do with that. I'm scared about that, and I'm afraid of what it's going to mean for you and I, and what it's going to mean in our marriage. And that's usually not what happens. Instead, it can come out as like sarcasm, side remarks, and what do we do when someone's unwilling to grow? I don't give up on people too soon. I would pay attention to how I'm behaving in the relationship. And I would maybe invite your husband to some counseling. And hopefully he would be, and the invitation would be something like this. We'll call him Joe. Joe, I know I'm changing, and I imagine that you can see that. I know that I'm asking different questions. I'm wanting different things out of life. I know I'm even making demands and requests of you that maybe you've not heard before. And I can imagine that it feels uncomfortable. And what I'm realizing is the skills that we've had that have brought us this far aren't the skills that are going to take us further. And I'd love for us to find somebody that you and I could work with together to learn how to communicate more effectively as we go through this growth spurt in our marriage. I don't know where it's going to lead. I'm hoping that it leads to a place where we feel closer and more aligned with one another. At the very least, and this is important, Alexander, Alexandra. At the very least, I think it will help us to feel safer in our marriage and more connected and better able to communicate in a way that really honors each of us instead of hurts each of us. And so I'm wondering if you'd be willing to let me look for somebody. And when I do, we could meet with the person and we could have an agreement that both of us would have to like the person, otherwise we wouldn't go back. I'd find somebody else. Would you be willing to do that? That kind of invitation, Alexandra, don't wait till it gets to the point where it's like, look, you either go to therapy or I'm out of here. And sometimes, believe it or not, that's the place you have to get to in order for a partner to go into therapy and to get the help that they'll benefit from. But if you can avoid it, if you can catch it before it gets to that point, so that you can make an invitation to get the help that you both deserve and would really benefit from, I think that that would be better. I always like to remind people, unless we learn to find our voice, to find a loving voice in a relationship, unless we learn to deal with the partner we have, we will find that partner just dressed in someone else's clothes in the next relationship. So it might be, I don't have all the details. It might be that, of course, he's threatened by change and growth. I would be threatened by change and growth. I would be threatened today if all of a sudden I saw Michael growing and changing and asking different questions and making different demands. I have been threatened by his demands. I write about that in my next book, but I took it on, and I made a decision to grow. I knew that it was about me first and foremost, more so than it was about us, and that I needed to take on the requests that he was making that I was ignoring, because he got to the point where it was like, you know what? I'm not going to just put up with this anymore. I want things to change. And it was such a gift to me ultimately, Alexandra. So I would be gentle with him. See, if he's kind of nasty or not nasty, this is always tricky because I don't know the circumstances. If he's sarcastic or if he's just kind of uncomfortable, if he's abusive, that's something different, of course. But if he's just teasing you or not being very cooperative or helpful, just recognize that there's a scared child inside of him that needs support and love. And I think if you approach it that way, you've got a better chance of getting him to give you the support that you need. I'm hoping that's the case. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right. No, Lisa, I don't know about the healing codes. Not familiar with that. At least I don't think I am. You never know. If I knew more about it, I might be. Oh, yeah, can you say more? So Anne wants to know, can you say more about it not being good to release a trauma like your story of the tapping with Connie? Yeah, thanks for clarification about that, Anne. What I meant was, when Connie came up on stage this past weekend in Vegas, I was talking about doing a tapping session with Connie in Vegas. When she came up on stage, she was angry at herself for holding on to this story about the accident. She felt like she needed to get over it, stop bringing it up, stop making it, the centerpiece in her life and in the lives of those around her. So my point is, when we start with the coaching, when we start with the tapping, what I said to her is, even if I never get rid of this story, I love and accept myself. Even if this story stays with me forever, I love and accept myself. Even if this story remains at the center stage in my life, I love and accept myself. And I did that, Anne, because the resistance, the energy she had around getting rid of that story meant it needed to be embraced. There was a gift underneath that story, or there was a gift behind that story that needed to be revealed, and we weren't going to get to it until she stopped beating herself up for holding on to the story. So we embraced holding on to the story, and it led us to what was really going on for her. As I mentioned earlier, an earlier accident when she was 3 years old and was thrown out of a car. And so we tapped on that earlier trauma. And then the trauma around the challenges she got from her little brothers about always needing to be the center of attention because she was the center of attention as she was healing from that accident. And some part of her took in that it wasn't okay to be the center of attention. So you see, that began to be the gift behind the story, was the belief that it wasn't okay for her to be in the center stage of her life. So then we tapped on that, and suddenly she realized what a gift the story of this accident was. And then it was able to be put aside gently because the gift, the gold, was mined from the experience. So that's what I mean by that. And I hope that's helpful, Anne. I hope that makes sense. I wished I had taped that tapping session because it was pretty amazing where it went to and pretty amazing what happened. So, okay, let's see. I'm just trying to get to more questions. And you can just continue to post your questions here. So Monica says, I commented earlier about dreaming about my previous husband. He left me in 1986, and I continue to awake and feel like he just left. How do I resolve this from happening? Well, again, this is something, once again, I share a little bit about my own dream work in my next book. I'm a huge fan of dream analysis and dream work. What we dream about is often reflective of what's in the unconscious that wants to be brought to consciousness. So, Monica, what I would say to you is, let me say this. So Marion Woodman, who wrote a book called Addiction to Perfection, Bones, she's written several books. She was a student of Carl Jung, and she was a teacher of mine for many years early on in my work. One of my most important treasured teachers, and I learned a lot from her about dream work and how very often what we dream about, everything we dream about, is a reflection of an aspect of us or something in the unconscious that's trying to come up and find its way into our conscious lives. So all of you can begin to pay attention to your dreams, and when you do, notice the images, the colors, the storylines. I've had wonderful dreams about being in elevators as I'm moving up in levels of consciousness in the work that I'm doing in the world, in my own world. Sometimes I've dreamt of elevators that go up and then turn this way, and then go up and then turn that way. And, I've really journaled about what those experiences, what that means. How is my growth heading one way and then taking a turn, and then heading up again and taking another turn? So, Monica, what I would say is, the dreaming self will often return us to memories that hold some wisdom that we need in present day. Now, in your case, it could be that being left is still a trauma that needs to be resolved. Tapping could be a great way to address that. Therapy could be a great way. Really looking at, so it could just be that the trauma of being left back in 1986 is still with you, and it needs to be resolved in some way. Being left is a very powerful, traumatic event. It could also mean that something that was going on for you at that time is going on again now in a different way, and some of the lessons learned from back then are being called upon now. I remember one time Marion said something about how we will often dream. For example, I might dream about my childhood home today because it reflects something that's going on. My dreaming self, my unconscious, is leading me back to something during that period of time, let's say at 19 in my childhood home, that is simply mirroring the same kind of pattern that's happening today that needs to be dealt with. It's really quite remarkable what the dreaming mind does. Really powerful work. So, Monica, I would, instead of trying to resolve this from happening, I would do this. When you go to bed tonight, when you're laying in bed, just quietly ask your unconscious to give you more information in a dream about this situation. You might even do this. Now, take a deep breath when I tell you this, because this might not be comfortable. But you might take a picture of your ex-husband and take it out and start to look at it and ask that image to speak to you. What is it about that experience that's trying to get your attention now? What's happening? Are you afraid of being left right now? Have you been left? Are you thinking about leaving someone? I don't know. I'm making this up. It's your experience. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the process. Marion Woodman also used to say, anytime I would have dreams, she would say to me, bring the images into your life. Allow the images to live and breathe in your life so that they can speak to you. Draw the image, paint the image, sing the image. Like, just take a photograph of an image that reminds you of it. So I'll ask your unconscious to give you more information so that you can understand what's needing to be resolved about that experience. I think that would be really helpful, and I'd be curious to know what happens. Be curious to know how you, what you learn about yourself and what you learn about your experience as a result of doing that. Okay, dream work, love it, really love it. Oh, Dana, thank you. I'm glad the information on support was helpful. James, sending you lots of love. Thank you, James. I'm having a bit of a faith crisis. I feel very confused by religion and my spiritual life. I'm not sure what to believe or how to feel more confident in a divine plan. I wonder, James, how old you are. Maybe you can just tell me in the comments how old you are. I don't know why, I just feel like that would be interesting to know. I think that that's happening for a lot of people right now, James, where we're starting to rethink revisit our spiritual lives. And I actually think that's a really good, healthy thing. There was a book I read called Red Moon Passage. I don't remember the author's name. It's a compilation of stories. And it's about women. So, James, I'm going to take a risk here and say, I think it's out of print, but if you could get your hands on a used copy on Amazon, Red Moon Passage. It's about women in the menopausal time of their lives. I remember when I was reading it thinking, men go through andropause. It's like a menopausal time as well. Men who are awake and wanting to understand themselves better will go through a period of questioning as they enter the later stages of their life. So, for example, and I've talked about this before on Facebook Live, that, when we move out of the student phase and the householder phase and we come into this next stage where we start to reevaluate our lives and harvest lessons learned and wisdom learned, we also often think about our relationship with God or the universe or the divine. Very often the religions of our youth come forward and we begin to look at what works for me about the religion that I was raised in and what doesn't work. And depending on the religion you were raised in and how you were raised, that can be pretty scary because some religious institutions, make it not a good thing for you to be questioning your beliefs. But I believe that God or Jesus or Buddha or whatever your name is for a divine presence is big enough to hold our questions and our inquiry. And so Red Moon Passage looks at, for a woman, how her questioning, her spiritual and religious upbringing, how she begins to really enter a period of inquiry about her spiritual life. And in some ways, James, I have a sense that might be helpful to you. Clarissa Pencola Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, is one of the women that is interviewed in this book. There's I don't have the book near me, but there's a wonderful Native American elder who's interviewed, and that's one of my most favorite books that I turn to over and over again because it's filled with wisdom. It's highlighted and underlined, and I don't have a lot of books like that. So I would recommend that. A crisis of faith is what brings us closer to this greater love. And, there's also a wonderful woman, Holly Holden, who is a friend of mine. She's running a Facebook group called The Presence of Love. And every morning she's recording a Facebook Live video about the lesson for the day from A Course in Miracles. And I started doing it at the beginning of the year because I had tried to do A Course in Miracles a couple of years ago, and I really got hung up on the very sort of what I experienced as patriarchal Christian language and also the complexity of it. And Holly has made it incredibly accessible. And so you might also want to check that out, James. I'm finding it a beautiful way to start the day with a lesson from A Course in Miracles, a brief meditation, and a community of people who are really inclusive and loving and supporting the exploration of a renewed relationship with the divine. So again, the group is called Presence of Love. It's a closed group you can ask to join. And you might want to check that out too. That's a great a resource I think would be very helpful. Ginny wants to know how to stop worrying. Now there's a question, right, Ginny? Yeah. Who else wants to know how to stop worrying? Anybody else? Let's see. It's so interesting to me. I feel like every Facebook Live I bring up prayer beads. And one of these days I have to remember to have them with me. I have several sets of mala beads, which are 108 prayer beads. I have some beautiful sets of rosary beads. And Ginny, I've used beads to help reorient my thinking away from what I'm worrying about to something more positive. I have a great graphic that Joe Dispenza shared with me over the weekend that I'm going to be posting on Facebook here. And I'll probably post that tomorrow morning. So Ginny, be on the lookout for that. It's a great graphic about worrying. It's just perfect. And it will really, I think it'll help you. So look for that tomorrow, Ginny. There's also a wonderful book by Ned Hallowell. He's the guy who wrote Driven to Distraction, the ADD expert. But he wrote a book about worrying. So if you look up Ned Hallowell, so it's N-E-D, I think it's Hallowell, and just type in, Google that and worry, you'll find the book. It's got some great resources in there as well about stopping worrying. Tapping can be incredibly helpful. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Cheryl Richardson TV, so just go to YouTube and type in Cheryl Richardson TV, you'll see that there are several tapping videos. Tap Away Your Anxiety would be a good video. I always post these Facebook Lives on my YouTube page, so you can find it there, and I've done some with tapping. Praying is a wonderful way that here's the thing to know about worrying. All worry is just thoughts in your head. It's repeatedly thinking thoughts that frighten you or make you anxious, make you uncomfortable. And so you change the thoughts. I spent 1 year, Ginny, in particular when I was really feeling worried about several things. I spent a year, every day in my journal, I made a list of at least 10 spontaneous affirmations. I didn't worry about them being perfect. I didn't worry about them being the right affirmations. I worried about the practice. Listen to me. I just focused on, forget worried, I focused on the practice of every day sitting down and making a list of positive affirmations as a way to reorient my thinking away from the things that I was worried about and toward the things that I really wanted to create in my life. It was a great practice. I ended up adding a lot of those affirmations to the book that I wrote with Louise Hay called You Can Create an Exceptional Life. I also, a lot of the card decks that I have great affirmations on them. As a matter of fact, Ginny, if you send an email to chris@cherylrichardson.com, and I will send you a box of my daily affirmation cards. They've got positive affirmations on them. I'll send you a box, and that way every day you can pull a card, or you can pull them throughout the day. When you find yourself worrying, go back and pull cards as a way to keep you focused. What I do sometimes, either I'll take a self-care card or a grace card, and I'll post it like in my office or in my bathroom. My husband Michael has one, it's so sweet. On his bathroom mirror, I noticed this morning, something that he's focused on. It's a great way to return to a positive thought when you're worrying. So send Chris an email and I'll send you a box of cards, and hopefully that will help. So let's see. Yeah, Sherry says, I have a power of attorney for my elderly mother and brother, and I'm running into roadblocks trying to help my brother help our mother financially at his request. Well, it is frustrating. I don't know what kind of roadblocks you're running into, Sherry, but I will say this. whenever we're dealing with stressful situations, especially related to family, we often regress and become very young, and our frustration's a good indication that some of that is happening. So when you're most frustrated, I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath and just ask your subconscious to give you a number related to whatever age you might feel right now. And then when you get that number, 10, ask your subconscious to give you a thought or a word or a memory related to 10 years old, an experience that might have similar feelings maybe with your brother that you have now. Part of the reason I invite people to do that is it gives you some objectivity. You realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't about present day. This is about stuff that happened before that I'm letting get in the way of present day. And that objectivity instantly snaps you back into an adult place. Now, the same thing is happening with those we're dealing with who are scared and frustrated. And when people get older, they get naturally anxious because, especially people who have not created, remember this is important, people who have not created a connection, a strong ongoing connection to their inner life, become very frightened in later years about death because you've got nowhere to turn. You're looking to all of your energy is invested in the outer world. And when our energy is invested in the outer world and we feel like we're losing it, you can be damn sure we're going to be terrified of that. But when you learn to tend to your inner life, meditation, journaling, walking in nature, conversations with yourself, growing yourself back up, doing these praying, meditating, I mentioned meditating because it's so important. These practices done on a consistent basis allow us to begin to build a deep, rich inner life that make us far less afraid of dying. I say that, Sherry, because if you or your brother haven't tended to or cultivated that inner life, this is going to be a scary time. And it's going to be particularly scary for him. So the more you can grow yourself back up, take space. Don't make decisions when you're frustrated. Be willing to say, you know what? I love you. I need a break here. Or I need to kind of go figure things out. Or I need to, I need patience and rest. I need to go meditate for 10 minutes. The more you can do that, the chances are, the better chance you have of making good decisions and not feeling as frustrated. These, and just decide, whenever we start dealing with people that are at the end of their lives and we're dealing with living wills and power of attorneys and all of that, everybody's entering into a regressed place. And what we need most of all is patience and love. And the only way you connect with patience and love is by stepping back, getting quiet, and reorienting your being to that place. So make that a regular practice, Sherry. I think that would be incredibly helpful for you, for sure. All right, let's see. I think I'm just going to do one more question. I'm glad that this is helpful. I'm seeing some of you say so, and I'm really glad to see that. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to stop here. I'm having a hard time going through and reading. It's too bad that the comments didn't come up on the phone, but I'm so glad that I have my computer here. Thank goodness. All right. So I'm going to stop here. Once again, to get notice of when Facebook Lives are going to happen, make sure that you're subscribed to my weekly newsletter. Look at the sign up button, the blue sign up button right above. You can sign up there. Also at CherylRichardson.com. I do these once a week. I'm not sure exactly the day. I haven't come up with a set schedule yet, especially because I was just traveling. But I don't know if I'll do that or not. But you'll get notice in the newsletter every week. And you can go to CherylRichardson.com, as I mentioned, for the to find out about events on the schedule page, or to go through the newsletter archives. Anything that you're dealing with here, if you go to the newsletter archives, look at the search button, type in a topic, and you'll get lots of my thinking and writing about all kinds of topics: grief, loss, change, creativity, career, business, relationships, money, you name it, it's all there. I have over 15 years worth of, not all 15 years are there, but over 15 years worth of writing blogs, so there's lots of resources there. In the meantime, I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are, and I thank you so much for spending this time with me. I will try and remember some of the resources I mentioned, and I'll post them here. I'll go through and redo this post, put it up right on this Facebook Live, and we'll put this Facebook Live into the YouTube channel as well at Cheryl Richardson TV, so you can always go back and either look at it here or on YouTube. All right? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me. Have a beautiful day. Lots of love. Bye.